Hello, welcome to a new series I'm doing. I'm here today with a special guest. This is Kerry. He's a transport planner, high school friend, and housemate extraordinaire. So,
Thank
Kerry,
you, thank you. Oh.
we've been living together for now since about 9 months now. So, how's it been living with me?
Ooh, it's
Yeah.
been great.
Yeah.
This has been very fun, very, very, very fun 9 months.
Good, fun 9 months.
Yeah.
My mess is like not too bad, right? It's like
No,
it's
no,
okay.
no, 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 no. It's about as messy as I am, so it all equals out. If there's no differences between each other, then it's all good.
I think that's what matters, right? Like, it's not about like, it's about how you're the same level of untidy, and I think we're all like. So we've got another housemate. His name's Jackie, and I think he's a bit cleaner than me.
Yeah, I think he's the most cleanest out of
He's
all
the
of us.
cleanest out of all of us. So we're like the two gronks in the house.
100%.
But it's been good. It's been good. So we've been moved out for like 9 months now. Do you feel like you've changed much over the last while?
I wouldn't say very dramatically now, but I definitely do feel like I've changed. I think my mindset a bit, and when it comes to like just like living life about, I think you've had quite a bit of influence on me. I wouldn't say I've changed like gone through those one of those just, dramatic changes in personality, but it's just very subtle things and like the approach. A lot of approaches I take to life are a bit more. How do I say it? I feel like I'm a bit more independent. Like I can voice my own opinion a bit more
Wow.
in over the last 9 months. So prior to that, I'd be a little bit more hesitant to open up like my own thoughts and everything. But just like talking to you over these 9 months, learning from you as well as just like seeing how you act as well, I think it's also had quite a bit of an impact on me.
That's really nice of you to say, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, moving out, I think we've all had like pretty good influences on each other. I think the reason why I asked like you two to like move out with me was because I feel like your housemates really affect your personality, right? It's like that like adage that gets repeated all the time. Like you're the like average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and like obviously you spend like so much time with your housemates. So I think it's good to get housemates that are like kind of people that you would like to be more like. So like the things that I looked up to you were that you're like very family oriented. You've got like you're very sure of your values, and like generally that they're good values that I agree with as well.
Yeah.
You're like very hardworking, and yeah. So you say that mm, you've become more independent.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously there's like the cooking for yourself. There's
Yeah.
like all of that stuff, but specifically you zoned in on like a more social confidence. Like you
Yeah,
voice
yeah.
yourself more.
Definitely. So, how do I explain it? There's certain situations where I would typically like I would think of something in my head, right? And normally I wouldn't act out on those words. Like I would like maybe for example, um, I wanted to ask. I think we were walking. So I think this is one of our like walks together. I was a bit concerned whether my pace was slowing down everyone. And so I think previously, so in the past like 9 months before that, I wouldn't have said anything. I would have just like just been in my own world thinking, I have to either two options would have presented to me. It's either one, I just continue walking like slowly, or two, I just like I would speed up to you guys, even though it wasn't like at that time it wasn't my pace. But like I think living with you guys after those 9 months, I had like the confidence or like the ability to just ask you guys like, okay, hey guys, am I walking too slow? Do you want me to speed up on that? And obviously you guys, being nice friends as you all are, you guys are just like, nah, it's all cool. Something as trivial as that. Like it might
Keep
sound
up, or we're leaving you behind.
like something like that sounds like very trivial, like in the grand scheme of things. But in my opinion, it's like a lot of those small things do add up. It's like every time that you do hesitate a little bit, you hesitate more the next time around, and then you just build up this like this like you repeat these actions of hesitation, and eventually that will have an effect. At least personally, that will have an effect on me. So the more I hesitate in my actions, the more I don't take action on what I want, the more I feel like I'll withdraw from the world, and I become less open. So just like those small things there, just asking, oh, hey guys, am I too slow? Am I too fast? Or like, do you want me to speed up? Just something like that. Like, it makes a little small step, you know. They say the old quote, you know, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Like, basically, it's a very similar thing to me. So these very small little things do build up and make me a bit more confident in the long run.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, as I've gotten older, I've felt more confident in like imposing my like boundaries, or like being able to express exactly like what I need or what I want. And I think that's the way to go, right? That's the way to go. You can't just like let people like push your boundaries too much, because like they may not know, right? How will they know unless you? It's like kind of your responsibility to just voice it, like, oh yeah, this makes me feel this way. Like, obviously you don't like you're a dickhead about it, but I think do you feel like that comes from a more like Asian upbringing? Because I feel like
I think it does come from an Asian upbringing. Like, part of it definitely comes from an Asian upbringing. I think as like in an Asian society, you're a bit more collective, so it's a more of a collectivist society. So it's like sort of like conforming to. So in that scenario, you two were the majority. So I like in the Asian standard, I would just not say anything and just speed up to match your guys' pace, even though that makes me a bit uncomfortable. So I think part of it definitely is an Asian upbringing, but I think also part of it is just my own personality. I think naturally, I've been told as a kid. So yeah, I've been told as a kid that I was a bit more withdrawn, like not as like open. I was quite reserved as a child. So that I think that plays a part of it, but definitely part of it does come from Asian upbringing and just that whole collectivism, individualism thing. Yeah.
Let's talk personality. So you said you were a bit more withdrawn as a child. In terms of personality, I'm all about the Big Five personality model. Bit of a hater on the Myers-Briggs. I keep some people are really into it though.
Yep,
like
definitely.
Maybe I'm just judging too much. But
yep.
Like from what I can tell, because I did I did psychology 1A, so I think I know what I'm talking about. The psychologists, like they actually use like different models called the Big Five personality model, and one dimension that they measure you on is extroversion. So if you're like, and it's measured relative to other people. So would you say you're like on a scale of like 0 to 100? 100 being the top like 0 point whatever percent of like extroverts, and like 0 being like the most introverted people in the world. Where would you place yourself along that scale?
I've always had a question about extroversion versus introversion. There's a bit of a diversion from the topic, right? But like, I just wanted to ask yourself, like, what does like extroversion mean compared to like introversion? Because I feel like every time I do ask myself this question, I feel like depending on my mood on that specific day or that period of my life, I feel like it can change. But yeah, I just want to know your thoughts. Like, what is the definition of extroversion versus introversion?
I think the more extroverted you are, the more you want to spend time with people. The more quickly you recharge after hanging out with someone. Like you've got a bigger gas tank, I think, for like social events. And generally you're a bit more, like a bit more assertive, stuff like that. I think one definition that I really dislike is that extroverts gain energy from hanging out with people, and like introverts gain energy from like hanging out with themselves. Because I consider myself very extroverted, but I wouldn't say I gain energy when I go out and party or like talk to people. Right? It's inherently very tiring.
Yep.
But I just see myself as having a bigger battery, and my battery recharges faster.
Right. I think I would then, by that definition, I'll probably sit a bit more on the introverted side. So if it's like a 50, I'd probably be like, so if it's, let's say 100% will be introversion, 0% will be fully fully
Yeah.
introverted. 100% will be fully extroverted. I probably sit a bit more on the introverted side. I'd say maybe around that 40% mark. So I do have some like I do like hanging out with like my friends, and so I'm always down to do stuff like that. It's just that whenever I go to, I guess, like bigger parties and people that generally don't know, that takes quite a lot of mental effort. And I think generally my gas tank for those type of events is quite limited. So I'd say maybe like once a month, once at most once every 2 weeks, and then like that will really drain me. Like if I have to like go out of my way to like make those new friends and all that, and speak to people that I already don't know, I feel like that does mentally drain me quite a bit. But I don't think I exert the very introverted. I feel like I sit sorta in the middle, but leaning a bit more toward the introverted side.
Right. So like 40 out of 100.
Yeah, about 40 out of 100, give or take. Yeah.
We're back after a short break. So yeah, like as I was saying, before we moved in together, I would have assumed you were more extroverted because you're very loud sometimes. Like in a big group, like you'll be like one of the loudest people talking. Like people you'll be like the center of the conversation. And I've never seen you like stutter or like, get very anxious, at least outwardly, when I see you like interacting with people. So I would have guessed that you were an extrovert, but or like more extroverted than introverted.
Yeah.
But after living together, I have noticed that sometimes you really do need to like retreat into your room and like chill out, just relax. Like, and some days you'll just like you just hang out by yourself. So I guess it's hard to tell like whether someone is extroverted or not.
Definitely takes moving in with them to find out truly.
Straight up. I mean, well, maybe they just don't like you. Maybe they're very extroverted, just don't want to hang out with you. Okay, so that's one dimension of the Big Five personality. There's another one called neuroticism.
Yep.
So that's your tendency to experience negative emotions. So if you're highly neurotic, you get anxious very easily. You get worried very easily. You get your like neurotic people tend to be more shy. They're more prone to depression, I think. Don't quote me on that one. But would you consider yourself more neurotic or more stable, less neurotic?
I do consider myself to be quite stable. I don't experience.
I can see that.
Yeah, I personally don't experience negative emotions that often in my life. Like it's not definitely not the first thing that comes to my mind like in any like given situation. Not really much to it.
Yeah, so low neuroticism. So one thing, because all of these traits, right, people are placed on different scale, like places for a reason. If it was like a completely bad trait, then it would be completely eliminated. There wouldn't be a need to like have variation along that axis.
Yeah.
So my understanding of neuroticism is that if you're highly neurotic, your sensitivity to like danger is higher. So that's why you experience more negative emotion. Have you ever felt like because you're so stable that you've like missed cues or you've like gotten yourself into deep water?
Oh,
because
yes.
you just didn't sense danger like quickly enough.
Oh yes, definitely. I think the most prevalent example of this is during work in my own professional career. Yeah, it's like I think I can sometimes take on a bit more than I can actually handle. So I don't. I think one of the pitfalls right now in my career is that I don't account for times where there can be like an emergency, like a very urgent like piece of work that needs to be done. So I will take on like a bit more. I will whenever I feel like I'm not doing enough, I will take on projects to fill up that load. But then when something like an emergency piece of work comes through, then that topples everything over, and I find it a bit hard to manage all those tasks at hand. So it's like I think I'm stable, and then something just comes through, and I don't sense that like potential danger of something coming through, like and just knocking everything over. And
There's
I
like
feel like
there's no slack in the system.
yeah,
kind of
there's
thing,
no
right?
slack in the system.
Yeah,
That's exactly it. So there's no slack in the system. So when something does come through, oh man, it truly messes me up.
Yeah. I mean, the last few days you've been coming home pretty destroyed. So I
Yeah.
assume this is like one of those times.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's funny. Okay, we'll circle back to work in a sec because I've had good conversations about your your area, but quickly going over the rest of the personality traits. One is agreeableness. So agreeable people are very very willing to conform, are very willing to take other people's like choices. They're pretty easygoing, whereas disagreeable people are very willing to like rock the boat,
Yep.
cause conflict, more like talk like for themselves, like
Yep.
bad for themselves.
Yep.
Would you consider yourself more disagreeable or more agreeable?
I think this one, I would like back in the day, maybe before I started working, I would have thought myself as completely like on the agreeable side. But I think as like I guess as I matured, gotten older, and also started working more, I think I've started to lean towards that disagreeable side. So it's like pushed a bit more to that disagreeable side. On the day to day, I still think I'm a bit more on the agreeable side. So if 100% is agreeable and 0% is non-agreeable, I think I'm still at like 60% agreeable. So that's still my default, is to tend to agree with people. Or I tend to let them like take lead. Just in situations where like no one like voices their opinion, or like there needs to be like some action, some leadership or something that occurs, then like I think I've learned to like take on a leadership role, or like voice my own opinion at that time when it's needed. But I think my first instinct tends to be a bit more on the agreeable side.
So one trait that I've read about agreeable people is that when sometimes they won't even know their own opinion because they so easily take on other people's opinion. I feel like that doesn't really apply to you, but does that feel?
So I think back then,
Yeah.
back then I would be, I wouldn't know my own opinion,
Yeah.
because I would agree or try to like conform to other people's opinion more. But I think just as I've grown older, I've formed a bit more of my own opinion. Like I know like generally where I stand in terms. So I think that's why I say like I've been a bit more towards like that middle ground now. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. So the next one is conscientiousness. So conscientious people like very quickly can just like make themselves do things. They tend to be very organized. They tend to just be able to get like, when they're given a task, they just put their head down and they can just crank it out. Where do you see yourself fitting there?
I actually think I'm not that conscientious.
Really?
Yeah, it actually takes quite a bit of effort for me to actually like put my head down, especially if it's something I'm not interested in. It actually takes quite a bit of effort. Just an example, like I know I have to go to the gym every morning, but damn, takes quite the mental effort just to get out of my bed. Like just something small like that. Yeah, just like my default is to just not get up for the gym and just go back to sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think generally with most things, like I know I have to do it. Like my head knows like you should be doing this thing, but I think my first instinct generally is that it takes a lot of effort to actually try to get things going.
That's interesting. And the final one is openness. So this one I think I understand the least.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a bit vague, but it's a general interest in like different ideas and stuff. How interested are you in like new ideas, or do you like, no, I just like talking about the things that I like to talk about, or are you like very like, ooh, like whenever you learn about something new, you'll like dive down the rabbit hole and you're like interested in everything?
Oh, I think I'm on the open. I think I'm a bit more open. Yeah. So, It's been so I like to think myself like I get into like a lot of phases.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so.
Interesting.
So right now I'm sort of in the like clothing phase, the styling,
Fashion
fashion
man.
phase. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just dive head deep into it. I go into everything. I look at the boots. I look at shoes, pants, jeans, shirts, you name it, all of it. I go into it. I've had phases. So right now on my sporting side, I'm into volleyball. So I'm into everything like jump training, injury reduction, how to perform better in volleyball. Just so whenever I do get into something, I do think I dive my head right through it and try
Get
to
into it in like a big
maximize
way.
it. Yeah, maximize like for all the gamers out there, the min-maxing.
Min-max.
Literally,
Mr. Min-max.
Mr. Min-max. If once
Interesting,
once I'm like truly interested into it, I just go all min-max. I literally would spend like all my like 3 hours or either on the things that I'm into.
Okay, so you're in a fashion phase right now.
Yeah.
What is the number one general principle that you've learned? That's like that was the biggest like lesson for you. It's like, wow, this one really like changed the game for me. So I'm looking for more for like general principles or like things that not specific fashion tips. Yeah.
So the one I know is fit. Fit is the fit of your clothes matters a lot. All right, it literally is fit. They say in the YouTube says that fit is king, and I truly believe that. But a lot of that does take you do have to. It's a bit hard to action so quickly. So if you don't have the money, it's a bit hard to go to like a tailor to get it tailored. Not saying that that's my situation, but like just say for example, someone else. They might not have the time or the money to get something tailored. So if that is not, so that will be not my first principle. Second principle is just try to get more colors. Like, yeah, I think just getting colors gets people to notice you and notice that you're actually trying and putting effort in to the fashion game, like into fashion. Like, I think it's like if you're gonna buy clothes, which you eventually will, like. And then you want to try to get started in the fashion game, just try to start off with different colors, like personally. And maybe this is an Asian thing because I've seen it a lot amongst my Asian friends is that we tend to just go for black.
Might be a Southwest Sydney.
Yeah, I don't know. It might just be a Southwest thing. I don't know. But yeah, so I just see that we wear black and at most like navy blue. Yeah, so I think just incorporating some like, start off with like the versatile, like bright colors, like light blue, sort of like this jacket, pretty easy to start off with. Maybe like a dark green, an olive green. Just expand your color, the color of your wardrobe, just bit by bit, is what I would recommend as like the very first tip if you can't get your things tailored or fitted.
And I guess like by wearing more colors, I think kind of the underlying value that it shows is like boldness, like willingness to like take a risk, right? Like confidence even, because if you're like just wearing like monochromatic and it's not because you're particularly trying to make a fashion statement, it's more like you're trying to blend in. It's like there's nothing to look bad. You won't look bad, but at the same time you won't look great.
Yeah. I feel like just adding any color really, just like aside from just like the monochromatic black, white, grey, blue, green, maybe even brown, pink if you're like that might be a bit of a step, but just those dark colors that are outside that monochromatic space. Just that's usually a very easy way to just get started. That's the way I got started. So even I right now haven't really got my clothes tailored. Quite a few of them still need to be tailored, but just that expanding my color, the color of my wardrobe.
Just need to find some time to take a whole bucket down to like an Asian
definitely.
auntie. Leave it there for like a day. Like get it done quick.
Get it done, yeah.
Okay, so you're a transport planner.
Yes.
What is that? What do you do exactly? What degree did you need? Let's start off that to become a transport planner.
So typically in Australia, you as a transport planner, you would be most transport planning places will take you in if you have an engineering degree. What I personally think as a transport planner is that you probably don't really need any degree, because it's so a lot of the things that I've learned in my role as a transport planner has generally just been learned on the job, and just talking to like people who are older than me, more experienced than me. Everything I learned has all been through them, not really through the university. University teaches you different things, like the ability to self-study, the ability to go out and network with people. So that as core skills soft skills that you will be using in the workplace. But as for the actual technical side of things, I actually don't even think you really need a degree for that.
Is that so in terms of actually doing the work, you don't need a degree, it sounds like?
No.
You can just it's a very practical skill kind of thing that you don't really learn at
Yeah.
uni. But you, from what I can tell from the outside, transport planners work primarily with the government, and I would imagine the government is big on credentials. So is it practical for someone to not have a degree and realistically find work?
I think it's, in my opinion, it won't be practical for you if you don't have a degree.
Yeah.
Just having any degree, I think, will be enough. So there are definitely people I've seen. Granted, they are quite, I guess, older, but their degrees aren't even transport related. They're literature or arts related. Some of them, some people, I think, senior managers, directors and all that, they were HR people when they started. So it's you can pivot into transport planning if you don't have a degree. But I think if you're starting off as a graduate or something, and in Australia at least, and I can't speak for the rest of Australia, I can only really speak for Sydney. But if you're a graduate, you should at least have a degree for them to consider you. That's just because of the whole screening process that they go through. That's not really on technical skill or anything.
Cool. But you studied civil engineering back in uni.
Yeah, I studied civil engineering and commerce.
Double degree.
Yeah.
What does a transport planner do exactly?
So a transport planner, in the general sense, will try to look at a transport network. So that will be a combination of cars, buses, train, rail is train, people cycling, and then people walking. And what we try to do is to identify. So the planning side of things is that we try to identify if there's any issues that are caused between these 5 what we call modes. So that's the ones I've listed. So car, bus, train, bicycle, walking. Those are called modes. And we try to identify if there's any conflicts between them. We try to prioritize people walking and people cycling, because in Sydney, that's it's just the most efficient form of transport for most people from day to day. Would be first walking and cycling, and then taking the public transport. So that's bus or train, and then finally we end with car. So as a transport planner, you will identify issues, and then you look at, okay, now we've identified an issue. Let's try to we'll try to solve that problem now. So we'll try to come up with some solutions to solve that issue. So let's say if we want people to walk between A and B and there's no footpath there, well then construct a footpath, right? It sounds pretty simple in this scenario, but it does get a lot more complicated from there. So let's say okay, now there's no space for a footpath, but you have a 6 meter wide road. Now, you will have to, as a transport planner, you will have to justify why you want to build a footpath there when it's just road. And so you have to work with different agencies in the government to make your point, justify why there needs to be a footpath between A and B, and then why you're going to take away that road, that space for cars, and assign it to people. So that's just like one example of what a transport planner would do. And then we'll also look into, I guess, more long-term scenarios. So like, what the network might look like in 10 years, what the network might look like in 20 years, and then even 30, 40 or 50 years. And so if there's like, let's say a very big infrastructure development like the Western Sydney Airport, then we'll need to plan like the roads around there. How are people going to get there? Are they going to get there by a train? Are they going to get there by a bus? Are they going to get there by car? And then once the residents within Western Sydney Airport, are they going to walk around? Are they going to like cycle around? So there are a lot of things involved as a transport planner, but in a general sense, it's just planning the future networks. The TLDR is that we identify issues in the future transport network, and try to, plan our transport networks and then move towards a vision of that transport network, of what we plan for that transport network. Yeah.
Cool. So it's like just basically everything with like moving people around and stuff, right? You convinced me that roads are shit. I am like a hater of roads now, right? Because growing up, it's like, there's like congestion, right? Just bloody add more roads, or like there's not enough parking, just add more parking, right? I've been convinced out of that, because this apparently you can speak more to it, but roads are just not the answer. So say Cabramatta, that's where we grew up.
Yep.
And like, there's always a parking problem. You can't park anywhere near Cabramatta, and the solution for a while was build more and more larger and larger multi-story car parks. Like, what's wrong with that approach?
So the issue with that approach is that it's basically a never-ending loop. Okay, so I'll take for example, Cabramatta. So they build more car parks. So people with car parks means that people who drive are able to park and are more easily able to park and then go about their business and then drive home. So the issue is that even though you do build more car parks and you do build more space, the issue is that the car park's always been congested. You're not even really fixing the congestion problem. You're just piling more and more cars because now more people are more willing to drive to Cabramatta because there is more space to park. So they think they have they can and they will, because there is the space available now, that people can drive people will drive to Cabramatta. And if more people drive to Cabramatta, then the congestion just gets worse.
Right. So like, by building like more parking spaces, you're encouraging people who may not normally drive. But now it's like there's more parking. Like it doesn't take me forever to find parking. So now you just got a larger base of people that drive, and then now you're back to square one because there's more people and there's more parking spaces, but there's more people. So it cancels out a little bit. Yeah,
it will cancel out. So I think the best example is just like a highway. So if the age old, as my dad would like to put it, just build more roads on Hume Highway. So
small lanes.
There's small lanes.
Just one more lane, please.
So let's say we're driving on Hume Highway and it's already congested in the mornings. It's always congested in the morning and the afternoon, right? I as a person who takes the train, I want to avoid all those congestion problems because, I don't like waiting in traffic. So that means that if I don't like waiting for traffic, I make the economic decision to take the train instead to the location where I want to go, right? Now let's say you add a lane you add like 2 more lanes to Hume Highway. Now, oh, okay, it takes the same amount of time for me to drive and also the same amount of time for me to take the train. So the benefits of the car is that
More comfortable.
it's more comfortable. I have my own
Play my own music.
I play my own music. I get now it's free. It's a complete easy drive for me, and they both take the same amount of time. Why would I? It's an economic decision. Like, why would I ever want to pay? Why would I want to go on the train when it's just more comfortable? It's more enjoyable for me to drive. Now that they both take the same amount of time. So now think about that. That's just for one individual. Now if everyone, let's say everyone thinks like that, then everyone's back on the road. Those people that were taking the train previously who thought like me are now driving towards the city. And so once everyone starts driving, those people or transition back onto the roads, then all we get is that the same level of congestion that we tried to avoid in the first place. So now there's even less people on the train. So, and that's not even factoring the cost that it costs to build those roads, the space that you have to take away from people. Like I'm just talking about really just the congestion issue, but there's like a whole nother issue regarding like space requirement, building the infrastructure for that. Like all of that costs money, and then if the congestion just goes back to baseline, then what's the point of doing it in the first place, right?
Okay, so if building more lanes or more roads is not the solution, what is the solution? And let's focus like on that specific problem of getting to work.
So I want to just preface that I guess it's not a solution, but we try to minimize the problem rather than it's a solution means finished, solved, and in the problem. There's always going to be a problem. Congestion is always going to be a problem regardless of where you are. I'll preface that. But what we tend to do is that instead of building more lanes, we're trying to make it easier for people to take public transport, because let's say you're not going to walk or bicycle from here to the city. Let's be real here. I would never do that, and I don't think most people would. So what we instead do is, as a transport planner, is try to make it easy for people to walk to the train station, try to make it easy for people to cycle to the train station, so that they can take the public transport and go to the city via public transport. So those are the main things, really. Just moving people towards public transport, because public transport does the job of what a lot of cars will do, but all at once, instead of you have each person. There's a statistic out there. I'm sure you can find it if you Google it, but there's statistics where I think one bus can drive up to 50 people, while if 50 people drive their own cars, that takes up so much road space compared to one bus, right? And I'm not even talking now. If we're talking trains, right? You get the picture. It just moves a lot more volume of people at once. Just more efficient, really. Yeah.
Is there a metric used to compare the efficiency, I guess, of different transport vehicles?
That's a hard one. I don't think I've come across anything like that yet.
Yeah.
The best case scenario is that they put a dollar value to so each, let's say there'll be a disbenefit for one person driving a car. So that will be petrol emissions. I think there's a safety one, so in case they crash, a fatality cost. So all those they're called disbenefits. So so that will be on a per car basis, right? For a bus, I think those same disbenefits won't apply as much, because let's say in that previous example we had 50 cars. That's 50 times whatever the value of those disbenefits are. And then for a bus, it'd just be the disbenefit of one bus compared to that. So there isn't really like a metric per se that compares the performance or efficiency, but there are ways to, I guess, quantify that. Like, yeah, it's more talking about like the disbenefits of the cars. Yeah.
Cool. Makes sense. I remember talking to you once about kind of, I don't know if it's a philosophy or like something along those lines of New South Wales, how they kind of view like transport through like a particular lens. I think it was movement and places. It's what it's. Yeah.
Movement and place.
Do you mind giving us a rundown and of what that is? And yeah.
So just to give a bit of context to this whole concept of movement and place. So back in the day, I guess, like 1950s to maybe early 2000s, most transport planners would have just been prioritizing the throughput of vehicles and like vehicles and people via like the roads, right? So everything you would have planned for would have been based around, okay, how many cars can we get through this intersection? How many people can we move by car from location A to location B? Okay, so with those, I guess those thoughts, that philosophy in mind, a lot of things that you see nowadays, especially in Sydney, they are a result of that thought process of moving cars from A to B, so you do see it in places, especially. I think one of the better examples might be around Ashfield, if you've ever been there. Like, it's not really not really the best place to walk around because there's all these pedestrian fences everywhere. There's like, it's a 60-kilometer road, so there's vehicles zooming past everywhere. Back in the day, before like maybe early 2000s, I think there maybe wasn't even those parking lanes, so it was just prioritizing cars going through. And with all those shops on the side, like, who wants to be there? Who wants to be walking around there? Everyone, like, no one wants to be walking around
fumes,
there.
like,
Yeah, fumes, it's noise.
Too many cars around.
Yeah, I don't, and it's like annoying to walk around because like I have to walk like 300 meters, 200 meters just to get to the next like traffic light, just to cross the road, right? Another good example actually is Old George Street. If anyone's ever been around there, that place was not the greatest places to walk. Like, yes, the footpaths were nice, but I had to cross like 200 meters just to get to the other side. Like, if I wanted to go from George Street Cinemas to like McDonald's, like,
this is like near Town Hall.
This is near Town Hall, yes. So something like that. Like, back then, it would just be open for cars. Cars would be the king, and people would have to just, give way to them. So it wasn't a very nice place to be compared to what it is now. So you can cross whenever you want.
Because we were living in Haymarket for like 6 months, right? And I think like we're so like, because we grew up in this era, like this car era, so like it's so ingrained in our minds. Like, it's just the norm. Like, yeah, of course you've got like every block's got to be like surrounded by like roads, and then of course you have to cross the street, right? Yeah. But like now George Street, it's just this huge line where you can cross either way. You can do whatever. Yeah. It's like it's nice and freeing. Yeah. And it's so much fun. Yeah. Like,
it's just
walking around
free.
the area.
I think it comes down to like, it's hard to express when you haven't learned like a lot of these terms, but like we all innately feel it. Like if you've been to George Street, you can feel that it's just a lot nicer place to be. Like, it feels like everything's connected in one. Like, whereas before, it's like I got one side and then have the other side. But now it's all like, okay, I can go from McDonald's to the cinema and back down towards that side whenever I want, whenever I feel like it. I mean, granted, I just watch out for the light rail. But it just all feels like it's one big area compared to being divided into two, right? And just like those things alone, just make it a better place to be.
So that's the place component
Yep,
of
that's-
the movement and place
Yep.
framework.
So yeah, what movement and place tries to do. So I'll move back to the question about movement and place. What that tries to do is just conceptualize the idea is that the movement component. So in any area, in any street, any road, there's components of movement and there's components of place. So the movement components is, as what we've discussed before, just like moving people through the area. Those are by the 5 modes that I've talked about earlier. Walking, cycling, bus, train, and car. So that primarily focuses on just the movement of them going through, going to, and then moving within that area. And then they introduced this new concept of a place. So that place is, in a sense, like the identity and like the feeling of an area. So for example, George Street now, that feels like a place that I want to be, right? A place that I'm happy to go there. Like, if I'm in the city, yeah, I'll go to George Street. I'll go hang around there. I'll hang around there with my friends. I'll go eat. I'll go shop. I'll go walk around. It's a nice area to be within. So we use this concept of like dwelling a lot. So dwelling is like, your ability to like stay in an area.
Loiter.
Yeah. Loiter around, as some people call it. Yeah. So it's the idea that it's comfortable to be in that area, and like I don't need to think twice about like walking around George Street. I don't need to, be annoyed that I need to walk 500 meters just to cross the road. Like, another good like place is like Darling Square, Darling Harbour, those areas. It's like there's things to see, there's things to do. I go there and I don't even need to really think about it, right? Like I don't need to think about like going there. I just know that it's a nice place to be.
Because again, with like I'm such a roads hater now because I'm a big walker, but it's so rare finding an area like Darling Square and Darling Harbour where just any direction I want to go, I can just walk and like there'll be no interruptions. I can like do whatever I want. Yeah. Whereas anywhere else in Sydney, like I walk down 20 meters, I've got to like wait for a traffic light. I've got to cross the road, right? It's not fun. It's like it's claustrophobic. Yeah,
it's definitely a lot of Sydney. I think when you actually put it into perspective and you actually think about it, can you really walk anywhere like 200, 300 meters around in any like shopping area, like CBD of any town and like not hit a traffic light? It's a real big thing like in Sydney where we always have to like hit a traffic light and I gotta wait here now and like that's just not it. It's not it's just not as comfortable as if I could just walk around anywhere, right? Obviously we can't turn everywhere into a place, so that's why there's both these concepts of movement and place. So we have to balance those two things, but we can't just purely focus on movement, right? Or else we get very bad outcomes where it becomes even worse than me having to walk like 200 meters. Now it might be like 500 meters because, those traffic lights impede traffic movement. So if I prioritize the car instead of the people, now I have to walk 500 meters to cross the road, even though I just want to walk to the other side to go like get Macca's. So that's why the New South Wales government has moved towards this idea of movement and place. It's so that when we do look at our projects for transport planning, we do consider both the movement function, so like the movement of people, goods in an area, and also how can we make that place nice for everyone to be in, feel comfortable in, to feel safe in.
Wow, that's amazing. So like continuing on with like transport planning, I feel like every area has its own metagame, like every career. And one component that I see very often is what are the external like credentials, I guess, that people look towards. So maybe not even necessarily, maybe like looking towards it in a bad way. They're like using it as a proxy for skill. But if you're like gonna look at someone who's a very credentialed, like very top of their game transport planner, like what does that look like? So like as an example,
Yeah.
like for like a researcher, like someone in like academia, it's like the number of publications and like how impactful their publications are. That's basically the metric.
Yep.
The yardstick they're measured by.
Yep.
What's the yardstick for transport?
A lot of it actually is just word of mouth, really.
Really? That's
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
it's actually word of mouth. So so there's going to be like the big companies, and everyone trusts like the big companies to do good work. I've had situations where, you know, they don't do good work, but
Name
regardless,
some names.
yeah. Let's I'll avoid that for now.
Yeah.
But just in case if this ever gets popular, I like, so the government trusts them to do work because they have their name associated with it. Okay, so I'll move away from that and look at an individual by individual basis. When it comes to that component, a lot of it does come through word of mouth. So it's like, okay, I've worked with this person I know is actually very good at what they do. Like, they're very good at this, or maybe they're really good at active transport, or they're really good at telling a story, or they're really good at high level strategy. And so a lot of that just spreads through word of mouth, experience. The only really measuring stick I can think of is so there's like a conference called, it's an organization called AITPM, Australian Institutes Transport Planning and Modeling, I think that's what the thing is called, the organization's called. Generally, if you do like presentations on there, like you present your work, or you get caught up to those like yearly conferences and all that, that's a pretty big like statement piece. It's a pretty big thing to put on like your resume. Like, if people know your name from those conferences, I think that's like, in my opinion, it's a pretty good way of like, if I straight up don't know you, it's like, oh, okay, he's from that conference, so he must be like pretty good then. That's the only one that I really know off the top of my head, other than word of mouth.
Cool. It's very interesting. Okay, then let's look at, like, other than like external credentials, what are the actual skills that are the most important for a transport planner?
Oh, there's so many parts to it.
Apart from being very fashionable.
There's a lot, and it really changes depending on what stage of your career that you're at and like the position you're in. As I will speak the best as a grad mid-level, that I think having technical skill, so just GIS. So if you're a transport planner, learn your GIS. Just learn.
What is GIS?
GIS is, I forgot to explain that. It's geospatial information systems.
Right.
That's what it stands for. And what that is really just in a layman's terms, it's you're creating maps and you're interacting with spatial data to develop maps, do analysis. Because when you can look at transport planning, you gotta look at a lot of times you look at it from like a bird's eye view. So looking at like things like, how many people have access to a train station, how many people can get to this bus stop, how many people can walk or cycle to a bus stop, and you can do that. The most easiest way to do that is to do that at a bird's eye view, and to do that you need like spatial data that's spatially represented. So I think as a grad, definitely learn your geospatial information systems. So that's a very big one. I think it's one of the core ones to learn. Or like, if you don't learn the actual software, you need to at least know how to interpret like that spatial information, because that's what you'll be doing from day to day. When you identify issues, that's done from a bird's eye view most of the time.
So GIS?
GIS, I think, is a core one. Other ones are just learning how to I think this isn't limited to transport planning, but I think it's just a core skill of just selling. And so learning how to create narratives. So formulate, because a lot of the times as a transport planner, you won't be talking to you'll be doing projects for people who aren't in the transport planning space. So non-technical people. So you'll be communicating your ideas maybe to counselors, to bike groups, to schools. So a lot of the things that you need to do is to translate what your technical outputs are. Formulate a story. Let them know what the issues are, how you've gotten to those issues, what those issues are, and then developing, I guess, the potential solutions to that issue. And they all needs to be packaged in a narrative. So you need to be able to sell those ideas to those non-technical people as well as technical people. But I guess it's that the skill of selling those ideas applies quite a bit to when you're communicating your outputs to those non-technical people.
So being able to spin a narrative, sell, tell them why why this is a good idea.
Yeah, why this is a good idea. Why why this is an issue. Here's an issue. Why is this an issue? And then what are the options? And then what are the benefits of our options? So if I build this footpath, that means kids. And if I know, let's say, identify, this is a nice footpath here, potential footpath, right? And if I build this footpath, then children don't need to walk past trucks, don't need to walk past high-speed vehicles. They can go through a local street that's way more quieter. So just selling that to them, formulating okay, here's a path that we've identified. The potential option is to build that path, and then making it, and then the benefit is that, now children and parents don't need to walk next to trucks, don't need to walk next to high-speed vehicles. They can walk, have a leisurely time walking to school. Just something like that. Very simply, that's a very simple narrative.
The more I talk to people, the more it's selling's everywhere. Being able to sell a narrative, being able to tell a story. It seems pretty universal.
It is universal. It is very universal. So that's why I didn't want to say it's just a transport planning thing, but definitely is a core part of it. Just selling an idea, selling your solutions. You can come up with the most greatest solution in your head, the most technical thing in your head, but if you can't communicate it to someone, and you can't be able to articulate yourself in a way that people can actually see the benefits of those solutions, then it doesn't mean anything. It's just writing on paper.
So I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent here. What do you think makes someone a good conversationalist? Someone is it them being articulate, or how do you approach conversations to make it fun or good? How do you have good conversations with people? This one's
might have to. That's a good question. I've actually never really been thought that deep into how I converse. Personally, I try to when I guess talk or speak with people, I try to I think I view myself as a bit of a storyteller. So sort of approach it sort of like a story, right? There's always a build up. There's sort of there's the intro, the context, I think generally you learn this in primary school to high school, right? There's that the English. Intro. yeah. So, you pay attention in high school, they might come in a bit more handy than you think in life. Yeah. So there's the intro. So you bring in the context of I guess the story you're about to tell, clear up some bits that might, introduce names and all that, things that might be recurring that are important to the story. Then you do a little build up. So, just build up the events of the story, the things that lead up to that, to the climax, right? You're just building up slowly to the climax, and then do some embellishment here and there, just give people let people know that they should be expecting something, right? And then 3 is like the climax. So then that's like either one that could be like your punchline. So in terms of the comedic world, I think that's the punchline. Like in the storytelling, that's the climax. So that's like what you want to, the thing that you wanted to communicate. If it's a funny story, then bang, that's your punchline. Or like, bang, that's your funny event. And then that's where you want people to, have a laugh at that point, right? And then, so I think that's generally how I structure my things. Like the stories I tell is like that, those 3 components of just like a slow build up and into the climax, and then like, just just taper it off with, I guess, like sort of like a conclusion. Yeah.
Wow. And is that something that you consciously think about, or is it you do it so much that you can kind of like do it on the fly? You can spin together like a narrative in that structure.
Yeah. I actually haven't, like, I've never consciously thought about it. Like the only time I actually consciously thought about it was, I think, in our discussions with each other, our in private discussions. Yeah. Like I didn't realize I was much of a storyteller until we were talking one day and I was like, yeah, I think my conversation style is that like storytelling. Yeah, like I tend to like do a lot of like mini stories, or sometimes it just be like one big story, like a little 5-minute spiel about something that happened in my life. That led to some like funny event or something happening to me, or like a funny event happening to someone else. Yeah. Like that's just the style that I do. And I really never thought about it. I think just because in my life I've talked to, I guess, a lot of people. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of people, and I like stories. Like, so I like indulging in stories. Like, that's either manga, anime, manhwa, like TV series and all that. Like, I just generally like stories. So in my head, there's like lots of stories that are like just floating around in there, and I can just pull out randomly and just tell like someone that doesn't know about it. Yeah. So I mean, even something that I picked up on just then is that I think it's very unconscious for you, but even when you were going on that, like going into your thought process on storytelling, you were using hand gestures a lot. You were like varying your volume. You were kind of varying your energy. So it ends up being a very engaging, like, conversation, which I think is really good. And it's like, the reason I ask this question is because I don't consider myself an amazing conversationalist. There's like a specific style of conversation, like this kind of conversation, where we're talking about like concepts and stuff like that, that I'm very comfortable in. But in other areas, I feel like I'm a bit lacking. I'm not a very well-rounded conversationalist. I don't tend to tell stories very often. I don't crack jokes that often. And sometimes I'll miss cues. I think I remember. I told you, like, I was on a coffee date like the other day, and then just like talking to this girl, and then at one point I was like, oh yeah, I'm a software engineer, and then she was like, oh, I don't know too much about that, and I was like, oh, cool, and then I just moved on. But like a few days afterwards, like I was just like, I don't know what I was like doing the dishes or something, and then I was like, oh wait, that meant tell me about it, like tell me like more about it. So you live and you learn. You do live and you do learn. Don't worry, that happens to me too. Yeah. I'm just like, damn, I really missed out on a really good like punchline and like that in that story or something. Yeah. So we all have those, definitely have those. Or like I'm like talking like doing something random and I'm like, shit, that could have like gone into like a way deeper conversation. Yeah. I guess one question, I feel like it may not immediately, you might need to do some digging, but how do you orient yourself when you talk to someone? So what is like the goal, or what is the objective? Like, and I'm sure it's not, maybe it is, but I think often for people it's not conscious, but is it that you're trying to share information? Is it like information transfer? Is it finding commonality? Is it persuasion? So when you talk to someone, say at a party, or like say like you're just meeting someone new, what's the frame that you kind of come from? I actually think, yeah, I think actually know the answer to this one. I tend to, in my first instinct, is to actually find something that like commonality. That's like the most comfortable way that or the goal of generally that I try to take whenever I talk to someone, especially someone new. Like I try to like try to delve into topics where or things that where I might find some sort of commonality in, because when you have something that's common, then like that's the easiest time that you can share your own story, right? So it's like you can, so like if you find some commonality, I'll share like some vulnerable story, like some story where like where I screwed up or something. And generally, what tends to happen is that then that's a cue for them to like share like a story of theirs, or I will ask a story about them, like, oh, have you had this like sort of a similar situation happen to you?
Yeah.
Or like, or did this thing also happen to you? And then that's a cue. If it's not obvious at first, it's like then it's a cue for them to share their own story. So that's how I tend to approach just like meeting new people, is to find that sense of commonality between us two, and then build off there to like enter that storytelling mode where I'll share a story, they share a story, or I'll continuously ask them about a story, and then maybe ask them to like elaborate, very subtly ask them to elaborate on whatever their story is. And then it's just a back and forth. Then it becomes a bit more information transfer, like through stories. I'll ask questions and then drop a story, and then it's back and forth. I generally don't tend to do like convincing. I try not to, so I'll tend to just leave that to like discussions, when we're having discussions, when we're a bit more like we know each other a lot more. But when it comes to when we're friends, then I'm happy to do anything. So I'm happy to do like share information, find commonality, or have like convince, persuade. But when it comes to new people, then
It's all about finding commonality.
it's always that. It's the first step. The first step is for me is to find commonality. If there's someone has a lot of common things with me, then we just like we always just hit it off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. Moving on. Who are your heroes? Who do you look up to? This can be, people in your life, but it can be people that you just watch online, or like you listen to them a lot, or you read their books or whatever. I'll leave that like kind of open.
Right. Well, number one is like definitely my brother, my oldest brother. He's just a role model I've always looked up to. He's someone who's always been someone I try to model myself like over, just like being a nice person and everything, and just like I can't say I'm like very close to him, or maybe people can say that I'm close to him personality wise, but I just try to I don't know how to put into words, but he's definitely a role model, that's for sure. I'll maybe have to get back to you in our own private time when I have a bit more to think about. Number two is definitely would be I think my mum, just like I think I've inherited quite a few personality traits from my mum, just like the openness, the social energy, or that social butterflyness. So I do, I guess, look up to her. Number three would probably be, so I do have a family friend who's like, roughly about in his 40s or something. And so, I look up to him for a bit more of that, like, life experience, that, life experience, and like how he's dealt with X situation in his past. Or his thoughts on things, because he comes from a bit more of a mature, outlook on life. He's in his 40s, so he's probably been through a lot of the things that I've been through. In my young adult years, I did do quite a lot of conversing with him, and I think just talking with him a lot has helped shape the way I am. Yeah. Online, I can't really say off the top of my head. I can't really say that there's really anyone. I think most of them are generally like
In person.
in person. Yeah.
I mean, that's good. Yeah. That's very interesting. So, like, most of the people that you do look up to are people that in person that you directly interact with. What qualities would you say that you've picked up from your mum that have influenced you the most? So you said like the openness, like
Yeah.
the socialness.
I think
You are
So,
a very open and social
yeah.
person. Yeah.
the openness, the socialness, and also just like, what other ones have I picked up?
Yeah. All good.
Yeah, I can't really think off the top of my head
Yeah,
right now.
I'm really grilling you right now.
I just haven't had a lot of time to actually think about it.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm going to pivot a little bit. What are the most important habits in your life for whatever? Like, what do you consider the most important habits in your life?
I think one is going to the gym. As lazy as I am about it, I feel like it is a extremely important habit to keep and have in anyone's life, really. Just working out, if it's not going to the gym, some sort of working out. Yeah, I've had periods in my life, so I've been kind of like working out on and off since 7 years now. So in the periods where I haven't worked out, it's not good. It is not good. It's like my mental, it's not just my physical health that goes down. It's like my mental health, my emotional health. I feel like I get more agitated more easily. My mental health, I feel like I can't, like going back earlier, it's like that hesitation. Like, I know I have to go to the gym, but I didn't. So then that bleeds into other parts of my life where it's like, maybe I can get away without doing that. Maybe I can get away without doing this instead. And, and it kind of just spirals down into like some negative feedback loop.
So it's the like setting a goal for yourself
Yeah.
and then hitting that goal.
Yeah.
And it's like it makes you stronger as a person.
Yeah,
right?
just doing a hard thing, like doing something that's like hard, and knowing that you push through it to do that. Like, that's like, for me at least, it's like, that's good for my brain. So it just says that like, okay, you can do it. Like, you've done like, you woke up to go to the gym. You can go present to a director, like whatever, man. Like, you woke up, you were about to literally sleep into like sleep in past this gym session. Like, you can go present to the director. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Just like an example of that. So that's, I think, my number one habit.
And I think just one thing about the gym as well, I feel like it kind of boils down the essence of like the idea of like progressive overload so well, which is like something that you can apply to every area of your life, right? It's like
100%.
just whenever you're doing something, just make it a little bit harder for yourself. Like next time you do it, and then make it a little bit harder, and then push yourself just a little bit, and that's how you get to amazing places. And the gym, it's just like that's the only thing. That's all gym's doing.
That's all
right?
gym is doing.
That's like you just slightly increase your weight.
Yep.
And then if you can't do it, you can't do it, and then you go back down.
Yep.
But if you can do it, you just slowly build up.
Yep.
And it's such an amazing thing to like viscerally understand.
Yes.
Like once you've like really been like at the gym for a while and you've gone through that process so many times, you can apply it to any area of your life. It's not like, I tried this and then it's like I just can't do it, right?
Yeah.
You just know, like,
that,
you have
like,
a deep understanding.
yeah.
Like, no, you'll get there eventually.
Yep.
Small steps.
Small steps if I like put in the effort and rock up. Biggest one. That's like the biggest thing I've learned like from the gym. It's just rocking up.
Just rocking up.
It's just rocking up. That's like legitimately like, I wouldn't even say half the battle, 75% of the battle for me. It's just rocking up. Once I rock up, like I know what to do.
Yeah.
Like you know what to do. Like, and it's like that. You can apply that to any part of your life, really. It's like, hard presentation, just do it. Like it's just like rock up, do it once. You feel like you feel like you've accomplished something afterwards. Like you know what to do. Like you just need to like volunteer your hand up. That's the same as just going to the gym, and then like we once you're there that like, okay, there's like a general set of steps. You can always ask people if you don't know. Don't be afraid to do that. Ask people if you don't know. That's what in the workplace. That's what mentors are for, and in the gym, that's what personal trainers are for. Yeah. So I think like just translating those, I can translate like the habit of the gym into just anywhere in my life. And as you've said before, it's just progressive overload. You get better only by like showing up and then making it slightly harder and then slightly harder, and then eventually when you look back, like you'll see, you've come all this way, right? it's like, and the one thing I like about gym is that it's like it's you can see results like you can for granted you haven't trained like for like 10 years or something, right? But like within like the first 5 years, you can generally see like a good steady progression of your own body over time. So I think that's one of the things. Like I guess in career maybe that's like doesn't happen as often, but like with the gym at least you can see that like in these 3 months I've progressed. Like I can visibly see that I've progressed. There's visible progression. Yeah, sort of like if for those who do martial arts, it's like getting your white belt, 2 white belts, 3 white stripes, 4 stripes, and then I got my blue belt. It's that easy sign of progression. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I mean, you say gym is the most important thing, and I'm sure like because you still go gym and stuff, but I feel like you've got a new love in your life in terms of fitness, and it's volleyball nowadays, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, what do you like about volleyball? What is it that appeals it to you?
I feel like it's innately a hard sport.
Interesting.
Right?
What do you mean?
It's So I read this in a book. All the fundamental skills of volleyball are not so all the fundamental skills, so that's passing, setting, I guess hitting and then blocking. All of those skills aren't used in really any other sport. Okay, maybe besides the hitting. But those core skills of like passing, setting, blocking and all that, they aren't found in any other sport. Right? So, and they aren't a core. So in most sports, all sports usually comprise of, one, running. These are definitely the most popular sports. They're popular for this reason. So it's running, throwing, catching, and I think it's mainly those 3 actually. Running, throwing, or catching, right? So just for example, basketball has lots of running. Okay. Baseball is throwing, catching. Football is catching, throwing. Oh, and then kicking. Yeah, kicking. And then soccer, football. Don't shoot me. There's running and there's kicking. Martial arts is kicking. There's like most martial arts is kicking. Just like those.
These movements you won't come across anywhere else. You start from zero, basically.
Yeah, basically. Everyone starts from zero in volleyball. Most people start from zero. Like, there's obviously, if you can jump high naturally, then you jump high naturally. But there's core skills of passing, setting, blocking, and all that. You don't really find anywhere else. So they're innately hard. They're hard skills. You have to learn them, learn how to do it, right? And then like the gym. So I start from zero. Then it's like, I get to see my progression as I play the sport more, and I see it very easily. If I'm running in like football, right? Like, I don't think it's not like I can't really tell if I'm gonna be running faster, like with the football, like starting from like when I first touched the football till maybe like half a year down the line. Like I don't think it'd be very easy to tell that you progressed that much. But in volleyball, if anyone's ever played volleyball, you start from zero. The ball comes at you. You dig the ball. That ball goes flying like anywhere, right? And you play for like train a solid 6 months, and then like in 6 months you can see that bang. Okay, I'm getting the ball like up, nice high, straight to the setter. It's very easy to see like your progression from zero to like however long that you play. And I think just the nature of the sport, like it's very like how do I like after every point you can like there's a temporary break, right? There's a temporary break in like the game, right? And then that gives you time to actually celebrate like the point that's been made.
I've seen your videos.
Yeah.
You guys, like, get a point and, like,
Yeah.
yeah. High five.
Yeah. So I think that aspect of it's actually like and like when you're playing it, like it's really like makes the sport. Like let's say basketball, right? You dunk the ball, bang, okay? Like you dunk the ball, you got to run immediately back. You don't really have time to celebrate, right? Unless the only time really is when you block and the ball goes out. But that's why it's so interesting. That's why it's so like exciting, because when you block the ball, there's like time for everyone to process what the hell just happened, and like, damn, that was so cool, right? But in volleyball, that's like every point, right? Like you smash the ball down, bang, points over. I got time to like freaking like cheer. Everyone in my team can cheer. And the opponent can cheer too. So there's ample amounts of time for everyone to be a spectator.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. Right. When you play like football, like they score the goal, the game temporarily stops, and everyone can be a spectator in that moment, and like actually join in on like the fun of like of the goal being scored. Same in like American football or NRL. Once that try happens, like everyone can like celebrate in that. In volleyball, that's every point. Like you see where I'm getting at. Every point's like is almost like the equivalent of like a touchdown or like a try or a goal, right? So and then you play like 25 of these. You and that's just one set, and it could be even more than 25. It could be like 50 of them, right? So you play these series of mini games in the game, the whole game itself, just to win the entire game. So I think, and it feels like every point is its own separate game. So I think that's why it's like that's the psychological side of it.
Yeah,
and
it's just a very hype.
Yeah, it's just a very hard game, and also just going back to the technical side of it, a lot of the maneuvers are just hard to do. Like there's a lot of coordination between people, right? Like if I dunk the ball, that's all me. Like I have the athletic ability to dunk it, but if I hit a very fast set, that's like that's relying on you, and that's also relying on me, right? So there's that sense of satisfaction where it's like we both had to work together to accomplish this very hard task, and that just makes it like that one adds complexity to the task. So if the more harder the task is, the more enjoyable it is when you do accomplish it. It's just a big dopamine hit. And then two, it's like we worked together to do this. It wasn't just me who did it. It was like we did this together. Yeah. And it's that sense of cooperation, I think, adds to the hypeness of the entire sport.
Yeah, because I remember you talked about the fact that with volleyball, it's very rare to have a one-man army kind of thing, right? It's not like basketball where, back in high school, this guy like David Lung, right?
Shout out to David Lung.
You just give him the ball and then he'll run it down like the court and like get it in.
Yeah,
that's like the whole game plan. And then like you would have me basically just standing in the corner. I'm like, that guy's on my team, right? But you can't really do that as much like with volleyball, right? Someone's got to be the one that I don't even know the words like
set the ball. There's someone that needs to pass the ball to the setter, and then finally you need someone to hit it. So it's really, you need 3 very good players at the minimum. At the very minimum, right? You need 3 very good players if you want like a very good, if you want like just even a workable team. You need 3 players who knows what they're doing.
So very team oriented.
It's a very team oriented. It's arguably one of the most team oriented sports out there, because it's just you
you need to work with another person in order to accomplish the goal.
Mm.
So in basketball, we all know that LeBron James, he can take it from basket to basket and just dunk it on his own or shoot a three. Steph Curry just 20 seconds, bang, 3 points like that.
Yeah.
The concept of the carry in volleyball is it doesn't hold as much like value or benefit to the entire team as compared to like a game like basketball. And because there are instances in like international cups where like the best player in the world, who's on the Polish team, they don't win. He's everyone acknowledges him as the best player in the world. I think individually, Poland has generally the most strongest like individual players of like their position. So, but they don't.
But they don't win.
But they don't win.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. They don't win. It's
So
always
it's
like
it's not a sum of the parts situation, right?
it's literally so I don't wanna. I don't want to be cheesy or anything, but if everyone's
Hit
going to
us
watch
with it.
Haikyuu, it's like it's the multiplication of everyone on the court.
Wow.
The value of everyone on the court. That
Yeah.
like it's the strongest six who wins. Like quite literally,
Yeah.
the strongest six will win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the sum of parts is will never be as high as like
Teamwork.
the teamwork. Yeah, because that's multiplicative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very cool. Well, like, let's wrap up soon. Any questions you want to ask me, or any like final things you want to talk about, or anything you want to shout out? I don't know if you've got like a secret YouTube channel or something.
No secret YouTube channel right
Yeah.
now, but I'd like to give my thanks to Justin
Hey.
for giving me this opportunity to chat on his new YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing who he will interview next. Don't know if I can ask that now.
I don't even know.
So, well, I guess that answers it then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to, again give my thanks to him for being the first interviewee on this channel.
Yeah.
And maybe I might come back again for another time.
Who knows?
Yes.
Who knows? Yeah.
All right.
You've got to like do some interesting things, Kerry. And then we'll have you back on.
Yes.
Have another session talking about volleyball.
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Kerry. And ta-ta.
See ya.